When my eyes have turned back to normal, when my cornea has cooled down and my retina can focus on the real world again, I'm going to tell you all about Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. Bonjour. Right. It was a bright film. It is 98% in the quantum realm, which I know they showed all the clips and stuff of it, and I thought, well, but I didn't know whether Kang was going to follow them through the gate maybe at the end, and there might be a bit of real world stuff, or there might be a bit of real world stuff. I didn't know what they was going to do, but they were straight in it. They were straight in. They do an absolutely ridiculous narrated walk from Paul Rudd at the beginning, and with really stupid music. It bookends the film, him walking down the street, and with this internal monologue narration about his as an Avenger and etc etc. It was really poo. It was really poo. It's jarring, and I know Ant-Man isn't a serious character, but it was just jarring. Whatever way it sets up a comedy film. Now that's fine. If this was The Mask, those bookends would have been marvellous. But it's not supposed to be The Mask, is it? There's supposed to be some threat from Kang, who's destroying universes, and it doesn't set the tone of a film properly when you do a stupid intro like that. That aside, I've got to say, it's not as it's not as bad as Doctor Strange, which I couldn't get through, and I know it's not Dismal Minus, but Morbius. But I know that was Sony, but this is all Marvel. Those two films I could not get through. This one I did. 2 hours. I think it was fairly nicely paced, if I'm honest. So this isn't a totally tragic film, but it's a film that you will watch once, or I will watch once, and I will never go back to, because, well, there's just no need. There's no, everything is as expected. But one thing about it is, having said that, I won't go back to it again, is the fact that these films aren't aimed at me anymore. They're not aimed at adults. And I realised this as I was, after the film had finished, everyone's going to the toilet, and there was a dad with his kid, and he could have only been about 3 or 4, this little boy. He was over the moon, and he kept saying, he thought it was funny, because he was saying, Dad, Ant Avengers, he's going. And for some reason he was thinking it was really hilarious. And that's all he kept saying. On the way in the loo, and I went to a cubicle, and I could hear him saying to his dad, Ant Avengers, and he's going, yes, Ant Avengers. Anyway, he turned round when he'd finished, and he went, Dad, I enjoyed that film from the beginning to the end. And I thought to myself, do you know what? These films, it was kind of like me apostrophe moment. And we don't go there. I know you're expecting me to do some crude toilet joke humour. We're not going there, all right? Anyway, I had this apostrophe moment in the loo, because I thought, do you know what? The boy's over the moon with what he's just seen, because for his age, all he wanted to see was that, like, whoosh, monsters, aliens, funny monsters, humans making quips. It delivered on but what it used to do is and I used to take my son to these films, and he was obviously a bit older by the time the Marvel was in the full effect, but just bear with me with this one, because I'd take them to Toy Story and we'd both enjoy that film, and likewise with the films I would take my daughter to. So they was entertaining a family on a level which I don't think Marvel, this is what I think they've fundamentally forgotten, is that they are squarely aiming it at children. Right, let's get back to whether this film is good or not. like I say, it's all right. It's dumb, though. It's dumb. But what they do, like they've done with the multiverse, is because we're in the quantum realm, it means that anything can happen at any time and anyone can do anything. There's a point where Ant-Man has to jump into this and he leaps off he leaps off this ledge to go into Kang's this big orb that they've got to shrink in one bit of the film, and I don't know whether he's flying or I don't know whether he's falling. I don't know whether this is dangerous for him to do, because he just done the swan dive off the edge, and I thought, well, what's going on now? The same thing with Kang. The backstory for Kang I liked. Michelle Pfeiffer, and without Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas, this film would be a proper sham. I'm not saying they acted their socks off. They dial this kind of stuff in, and I'm not saying anything they did in this film was Oscar worthy, but you can just see they command the screen when they're in it. And Pfeiffer's character was really believable, and so was Hank Pym's, to be fair. So was Michael Douglas. I did enjoy their moments within this silliness, and you can tell how good Michelle Pfeiffer is as an awesome actress across decades. When she's doing a scene with Kang, and she's kind of, without getting too spoilery about it, and he's getting all kind of, he's trying to give it the calm, collected, brooding menace of the quantum realm and all the universes in the whole world ever, and he's trying to have that calm demeanour and that but menacing, and I don't think it didn't quite work for me. Didn't quite work. I think it's what he's got to play with. I don't think he's a bad actor who played Kang, but again, it's what they have to work with. But that double header with Pfeiffer and I don't know his name, Kang, you could just tell that kind of, it was so glaringly obvious. Not so much with Paul Rudd, but he's a comedy actor, but he's all right on his. I think he's okay, and he's the actress who played his daughter. So acting performances are all okay, but the two top of the shop, you can really tell they've, especially Michelle Pfeiffer, they've hung this film round her neck, really, round her neck. And man, don't do a lot. He don't do a lot, and up until the end, he really, really doesn't do a lot. And I won't go there with the whole Wasp does more and his daughter does more, which they do, and a female warrior from the quantum realm does more. I don't want to go there, but whoever's doing all the action, it weren't him. So you make up your own minds about that. I thought it was his name in half of he's sharing half the title, and I thought he was the Avenger. Now, all that aside, the CGI, I know a lot of people have been moaning and saying it's bad, and doing screenshots of MODOK, who is Darren from the first film, who he's sent to the quantum realm. But I thought it was a nicely weird effect. For me, that wasn't bad CGI. It was the actor's face stretched out across this, and it looked totally alien. And the production design and the alien design and all this, it is beautiful. What they've all designed, what they've all made work. And I wasn't thinking, oh my God, that's bad CGI. Obviously, there's always going to be a moment, but I've got to admit, but it is bright, as I've alluded to. It is right on you for almost 2 hours. So I don't know if it's because your eyes do settle into it, and you're not looking for CGI anymore because it's all CGI. But I've got to admit, it did all, a couple of little practical bits and bobs of effects and that. But no, just dumb, like Kang's powers. So they find while Michelle Pfeiffer's in the quantum realm, she meets Kang, doesn't know what he's up to. He needs the engine for his ship that he travels through the multiverses and everywhere. He can just go anywhere in this chair, in this like coconut shell, or fancy coconut shell. We'll call it Kang's fancy coconut. We'll call it. he needs the engine, the power source for his engine, this ball thing. And anyway, Michelle Pfeiffer helps him get it sorted. And it's when she's putting it in, because he's connected to this coconut, that she's still holding on to it while it's powering up. And that's where she realises, oh my God, he's the destroyer of universes. And that's where it all kicks off. But once that ship's powered up, she nicks the orb and slaps a what's it on it and makes it big, makes it humongous, so he can't use it. Right? He needs it that size, but she's made it like the size of New York. Right? Okay, and that's where the story, and you know, that part of the story ensues. Like, but so Kang's powers, I know he's connected to the ship, but the power source has gone. Michelle Pfeiffer comes back to Earth, and he's left there on his own. But I don't know where his powers have come from, because he didn't have any powers. When you see the scenes of him working with Michelle Pfeiffer and sitting there looking at the quantum universe sunset, because she was down there 30 years. Suddenly when they go back, he can like lift people up with his, I don't know where the powers come from. And this is what I mean about the quantum realm and the multiverse stuff. It allows poor, lazy writing to just give these people powers when you need it to move that scene forward into the next scene, into the next piece of content. And that's where it starts moving from a piece of like from a piece of family entertainment into just purely for children. Because any kind of adult, and I'm not talking about just overlooking a plot hole or two, you know, we've all seen plenty of films where you think, ooh, but you're in it. And it's only when you might rewatch it the second time and you think, oh, I didn't notice that. Because if they did this certain thing, nothing would have happened. But anyway, this is just plot. It's not even plot hole central, because everything's designed. They can't, well, it's like a Swiss cheese of plot holes, really, because, like I say, Kang's powers. Like I was just thinking, well, all right, there's a scene, he kidnaps Ant-Man and his daughter. They're split up, and he's imprisoned them. And he's saying, right, unless you shrink down my power orb, I'm going to kill your daughter. All right. And he's got kind of Ant-Man up against the wall, and it was all really, really shoddy dialogue. And he's like kind of giving him electrocution, and she's going, no, you leave my daddy alone. And, you know, and he's got his other hand up, but all casually done like Magneto would. If there was any metal on him, and he could live. But with Magneto, his powers were defined. He could magnetise metal. With Kang, he's got his outfit on, and his helmet comes round, you know, like in the comics, and it's all done. It is all, like I say, all the production design and alien and costume designs, they are stunning. I will say that. And some of the aliens are weird and wonderful and wacky. And I did enjoy that. But there's no definition. There's no defining what can and can't be done in the quantum realm. Like, is there gravity? Like, when I'm, you know, fundamentally, you know, if Ant-Man's going to jump off a ledge and it looks like thousands of feet down, right, so is that part of the jeopardy? Has he got to do a superhero role when he lands? Superhero role and superhero pose? I don't know what he's going to do. He's died off, but he's obviously got a plan. I don't know. And Kang's powers, and then right at the end, again, like I say, it's dumb. He gives everyone enough time to mobilise. So old Paul Rudd gives him he's done it. To save his daughter, he's done it. Gives it back to Kang. And instead of just thinking, right, troops, we're off. We're going to raid the multiverse again now. he waits around for all of the alien races to mobilise, for Ant-Man's daughter to get the warrior woman out of prison, and then for her to rally the troops. And he stands around, and then he stands around looking, and then after they've started really going for it, and they're all in the city below, like the revolution has begun, he turns around and says, oh, you know, start the engines. You just would have done that. Again, that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to apply too much logic here, because I really did dumb down my expectations, because I was going into a Dismal Minus movie. No, don't do that. So I really wasn't expecting any kind of, I don't know, like head-bangingly cohesive science to all this. But it's got to kind of have, you've got to set up some rules. Otherwise, if anything can happen anywhere, it makes it dull. And perhaps that's why they lit it so brightly, because it certainly weren't dull. And then Kang, he jumps out, when it becomes apparent that like they're getting the upper hand, he jumps down out of the bridge of this ship, because it's all going a bit tits up, and he starts using laser blasts now. He's blasting, he's got like this laser, he just goes and like just kills like 20 people just by going like that. But then he'll go and kill 2 on their own, like solitary. I don't know whether he could have just blasted all of them with a double whammy of his power, but what they've decided to do, like they decide to do with a lot of their TV shows, is they sit around the creative table and they say, wouldn't it be cool if, it doesn't have to make any sense, wouldn't it be cool if he jumped down from the bridge of his ship and he started unloading some laser beams on the revolutionary people, aliens, that are trying to escape the quantum realm, you know, trying to do away with Kang. Wouldn't it be good if we just see him go, and then go, pew, pew. It would, and it did look cool, and it was very effectively done, and the sound was great, but it didn't make no sense. I was thinking, well, this is all too little too late. And then he does one of the aliens that we've come to know right from the beginning, and they didn't even linger on that. He was just dead, and the warrior woman looks over and goes, oh, and then back to and she looks up, and then one of her other mates goes, no, come on, let's run, which is good advice, and they do run. And as they're all running, against all the hordes running away from Kang, are Ant-Man, Wasp, and Ant-Girl, whatever you're calling her, his daughter now. And they all do da-da, standing in front of him. Now he's just used his hands to burn everyone to death with lasers, and they just do that. And I'm thinking, hold on, them suits aren't laser. He could have just gone, even if they shrunk down tiny, he could have just gone with a big blast that a fly couldn't get through. Little flying ant, they're going to shrink down and fly. No, you just go, wall of fire, done. It doesn't make any of it. Like I say, none of it. And then, oh Ant-Man, they're doing fisticuffs now. they're going, come on then, and he's going pop pop, and this is after this scene. They're up on the bridge, and you know they've resorted to a bit of pow pow, puff puff, and Kang stamping on his head. You know, if you're Kang the Conqueror, surely you'd have one more trick up your sleeve, because it just seems convenient that like I say, the powers come and go. Like there's no definition. And if anyone listens to Hogcasts and stuff and things I've done in the past, and I had conversations with Taters and The Right Advice and Space Lizard, and I don't know if I've ever said it on video, but my go-to when I explain how you can set up a world or an environment, a fantasy comic book environment, is all you have to do is give the audience a set of rules at the beginning. So if it's on Earth, you haven't got to do a lot to establish that there's gravity. And Blade, the setup for that film I think is one of the best openings for a film and one of the best setups in a film. Over and done with in 5 minutes. The volume of information we get from what is essentially an action scene with a thumping soundtrack over it, I think is one of the finest setups. Through a bit of dialogue, you establish he's a daywalker. You establish that he's quite a threatening individual. You establish that these are vampires preying on humans and they're getting humans down into the nightclub, and there's a whole subsector of our society that lives at night in these subterranean kind of environments. And this is all done so beautifully and well written. Then you fast forward to what we get from the level of these establishing scenes with Dismal, and it sets nothing up other than pretty pictures. And they were pretty, don't get me wrong, they were. The acting performances were good. You know, there weren't bad acting in it. The screenplay was, like I say, it wasn't the most tragic, but altogether, it's a Dismal minus mess. Because they can't just, this one just needed that layer of refinement before they switched the cameras on, before they went, just the level of refinement. And this could have been, and I know probably this is a lament for any Marvel movie, but I don't think it's a lament for Doctor Strange. I think, like I say, at least this film I got from beginning to end, and for a couple of hours I ate my popcorn, I had a cheeky little beer, and on a very, very subatomic level, see what I did there, I was entertained. Anyway, at least I make myself laugh. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. I'm going to have, if anyone's watching this like early on when I'm doing this, publishing this, I will be discussing this further with Space Lizard, Taters and Amber and Randy from The Right Advice. And the Right Advice's link I am going to leave in this video, and obviously it will be a Hogcast, so it will be on this channel. So you're more than welcome to get some more, because this has just been more of a reaction, to be fair. I didn't make any notes, but it's fresh from this morning. So yes, I will leave it there. And before I go, I don't really want to put, do I really want to put anyone off seeing it? Not really. I don't want anyone to hate on it. And I can't really hate on it. It's almost like a dog that you don't want to kick. You know, because it's all well meaning and it's all right. So I don't really want to kick it. I should really, but I think I've kind of kicked it enough, really, just with a few basics. But it didn't make me hate it. It just made me sit there watching a really dumb piece of children's entertainment, and I think that's where I'm going to leave it. That's what it is. So if you're up for that, if you're up for paying cinema ticket money for that, then that's your choice. But personally, if I didn't have to go to the cinema to watch it to do this review, I'd have waited to check it out on Dismal Minus, like I did with Wakanda Forever, Doctor Strange, and Morbius, and etc. etc. I just don't. I just, you know, nah. And on that note, I'll bid everyone adios.